best to not get totally stuck in the paper. I was working on this till very late and very early. Jesus Christ Superstore. This is a true story about an especially surreal weekend in my life. A story about paths not taken. It's a story I would hesitate to tell publicly on Vancouver Island for fear of embarrassing a certain person. But I think the Slocan Valley is far enough away. I did grow up on Kootenay Lake outside Balfour, but lived for many years in Vancouver on the east side. And this story takes place in the spring of 2005. Not too long before I finally decided to come back. I felt the tug for years. My two major romantic relationships in Vancouver had ended because the men didn't want to leave the city. But at the time of this story, I hadn't quite made the decision to head for home on my own. Back at this time, I often traveled to Vancouver Island to visit friends. And that spring, in 2005, I made one such trip to participate in an inspired event dreamt up by my friend Kathy, who had purchased an old abbey in Cumberland, which she ran as a performance venue for 5 or so years. The abbey had gained a national reputation as a special, performer-friendly place, and artists traveled great distances to play there. So I was thrilled when Kathy came up with the idea to stage a sing-along screening of the 1973 film classic, Jesus Christ Superstar, on Easter weekend. And the audience would be encouraged to come in costume and to sing along. And several of her friends, myself included, would take on the major roles, learn the songs, and perform them live in front of the screen. For any of you who, like myself, grew up raised by wolves in the woods and don't know anything about Jesus Christ Superstar, I'll let you know that it first existed as a vinyl recording, a suite of songs written by Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice. Despite Webber's involvement, the music is actually quite strong. After the album was released, a stage musical was constructed around the score, and then later the film was made by Canada's own Norman Jewison. A visual and musical feast. The film tells the story of Judas's betrayal of Jesus and the events leading up to Jesus' crucifixion. Many of the singers from the original recording expanded their roles into the film medium, and the cast assembled for our event, I would say, was no less talented. A professional dancer turned yoga teacher and several of her most talented students had spent weeks learning the very challenging dance numbers in the film. The willowy man playing Jesus had the perfect hair and an exquisite singing voice, rivaling Ted Neely's of the film. My freckled Scottish friend Sharon was playing Judas. Unlike Carl Anderson in the film, Sharon is neither black nor male, but she had found a fabulous black afro wig, and she's an excellent mime. She can convincingly appear to run while not actually covering any ground. Very useful, because Judas spends a great deal of time in this film running around through the desert. A local gay man with a crafty streak was heading up the gang of nasty high priests and had made fabulous bulbous hats out of pleather. And I was playing Pontius Pilate, the governor of Judea who was left holding the bag for Jesus' death. I wondered at the significance of casting me, a Jewish woman, in this part, but didn't for a moment entertain a single thought about not doing the gig because, unlike Sharon, I bear a remarkable resemblance to Barry Dennen, my film counterpart. I don't know if any of you notice any resemblance. Not only are our facial features amazingly similar, but at the time, I also happened to sport the exact same hairdo. It was remarkable. Everyone commented on the uncanny resemblance. In fact, we all felt it was quite a good omen, and that destiny was shining on our efforts. Cooperation and goodwill pervaded the group, and for me, the weekend took on a special fated feeling. I could hardly wait to sing Pilate's songs, like the one when he first meets Jesus. Who is this broken man cluttering up my hallway? Who is this unfortunate? And the soldier says, someone cries, King of the Jews. Oh,
Oh, so this is Jesus Christ. I'm really quite surprised. He looks so small, not a king at all. We know they too unused. But are you king? King of the Jews?
Couldn't wait to do this. It was going to be fabulous. And it wasn't just the songs that had me excited, or that I looked like Barry Gannon. I was also feeling quite warm and fuzzy because a lovely young man from Victoria was coming up to see the show. And I trusted that he would not be put off by seeing me play this evil male character, all penciled 5 o'clock shadow and all, because he was the black sheep of his family and appreciated all things unorthodox. So the weekend held great promise, and I was positively brimming with anticipation. When I arrived in Cumberland, the Abbey was abuzz. The rest of the cast was already assembled and conducting a chaotic run-through. The Abbey held maybe maximum 60 people normally, and the cast alone was nearly half that. Feather boas, bandages, togas, swords, and palm fronds lay scattered throughout the space, and people bustled to and fro with the intense air of purpose that comes with making theater. After the run-through, Kathy served us a meal, our last supper, before the show of organic vegetarian delights and locally brewed beer, a hint at why her venue was so beloved. We finished our meal and completed our last-minute backstage preparations. I checked that my laurel crown was preset behind the speaker, and that my purple cape was ready for my quick change, and our audience began to arrive. The locals in the show expected that we would pull in a good crowd, but I'm not sure anyone predicted that the room would fill to bursting with fully costumed audience members. There were well over 100 people in that tiny space, and they were all in costume. Now, I believe that Cumberland is on the underground tunnel route that connects Nelson and East Vancouver and San Francisco with the Gulf Islands. So these folks had put some serious effort into their costumes. I mean, like, you picture belly dancing meets Burning Man meets Tickle Trunk meets S&M. It was fabulous, and it was standing room only. And even the standing room was in short supply, and everyone was vibrating. The lights slowly dimmed and the film began, and we performers made our way from the teeny tiny dressing room, out the back door, around the building, to the main entrance, and upon hearing our cue, entered the hall. At the exact moment, the on-screen bus pulls to a dusty stop in the desert. Its door opens, and its riders disembark. And we entered single file, each character taking a moment to establish themselves. A colorful parade of human existence. And the audience went wild! This heightened state of excitement continued through the entire show. We could do no wrong. Palm fronds were distributed for the Hosanna, and the audience sang at the top of their lungs. The dancers nailed their numbers. Judas pled with Jesus and ran like the wind on the spot. Jesus resisted the worship and contempt of the masses and the rulers. Mary soothed his tired body. The high priests plotted Jesus' demise. And I, Pontius Pilate, after initially tormenting Jesus, came to fear for his fate at the hands of the angry mob, trying to satisfy their calls for crucifixion. I sentenced Jesus to 39 lashings, which built musically, one by one, to a thunderous musical climax, after which Jesus was crucified anyway. The film closes with Judas's lament for his friend's fate. The audience's hearts were tugged and torn and twisted, and finally our voices fell silent. The final strains of the score faded away, the screen dimmed, and the performers and audiences were united in the knowledge that we participated in a most brilliant and bizarre event, the politics of which would be pondered and debated at length in the following months. An event which undoubtedly would not take place in quite the same way ever again. Now, normally, I am the last one to leave the cast party. But a short time before this, I had had, okay, here's where it starts to go over, see. I had had one of the most erotic experiences of my life with this fellow from Victoria. So I said my goodbyes as quickly as possible, and he and I slipped out the back door. and the rest of the evening did not disappoint. Mr. Victoria really has a lovely touch. And happily, his passion did not seem at all stifled by my cross-dressing appearance. At one point, during the height of passion, I had the sneaking suspicion that our contraception of choice might not be quite as it should be. Mr. Victoria reached below the blankets and felt around for anything unusual. Everything seems dandy, he said, and so we resumed. According to the Real Canadian Superstore website, there is a 2 to 5% chance that male condoms will tear or slip, but this is usually associated with inexperience in using them. I guess we fell outside the norm. I cannot claim to be inexperienced. Even back then, neither could Mr. Victoria. It must have been a manufacturing defect, because after we peeled our bodies apart, we discovered that the condom was far from dandy. It had been reduced to a tattered ring. No reservoir tip nor its intended contents could be located. Sue! A conversation ensued that neither of us had expected to have that weekend. It began, well, maybe this is meant to be. Maybe we should just go for it, you know, see where it takes us. In these times, we have the power to put off so many important life-changing opportunities for growth. But that line of thinking didn't last long. Quite quickly, things turned to, you know, we don't really know each other very well. And I'm planning to head to Nelson sometime soon, and you want to stay here near your family on the coast, so maybe it's not the best idea. We decided that in the morning we'd go into town and purchase a morning after pill. Holding one another in our arms, we fell asleep, my mind filled with the music and desert images. Pilate's song, in which he predicts himself being implicated in Jesus' fate, rose to the forefront. I dreamed I met a Galilean, a most amazing man. He had that look you very rarely find, the haunting, haunted kind. I asked him to say what had happened, how it all began. I asked again, he never said a word, as if I hadn't heard. In the morning, Mr. Victoria and I reviewed our situation and choice and agreed to move forward. We shared our story with our host, a very dear friend, and he offered to give us a ride to town. He was shortly leaving to do a big food shop at the Superstore, fondly referred to by him as the stupid store. And in this stupid store, there was a pharmacy. Well, you might, like me, be perplexed as to why anyone would choose to buy food at such a place. But I try to avoid imposing my views on others. After all, I was very happy for the accommodations and the transportation to the pharmacy where a morning after pill could be purchased, so I kept my anti-corporate, anti-big box, anti-GMO, pesticide, petrochemical, hormone, medicated comments to myself. As we entered the Superstore, my stomach lurched. I'd never been in one before, or seen so much brand new stuff under one roof. We headed for the pharmacy, resisting the call of the jeans, and the snow shovels, and the potato chips, and the rice cookers, and the mascara, and the throat rugs, and the video games we passed. At the pharmacy, we told the short, mousy-looking woman with heavy lids working behind the counter what we needed. She informed us that Superstore doesn't sell the morning after pill. They don't approve of it. But then she leaned forward and whispered, "But when I needed one, I went to the walk-in pharmacy and they gave it to me, no problem." Walk-in pharmacy. "Yeah, right over there, upstairs." She pointed beyond the frozen food section to a staircase. There was a doctor's office in the Superstore. In the Superstore! Welcome to the 21st century. So we made our way to the clinic, stopped briefly along the way to marvel at the tiniest multi-screwdriver we'd ever seen. We climbed the stairs to the pleasant office where a receptionist told us we could see a doctor, but not for about 45 minutes. And she put our names on her list. So with time to waste, we explored the store. strolling arm in arm down the aisles, marveling at the endless quantity of packaged goods. Now, this being Easter weekend, the store was profusely adorned with symbols of springtime fertility. Tulips and crocuses of every possible color burst from every possible location. Bunnies with impossibly perky whiskers and fluffy tails leapt atop store shelves, and eggs of every size and description appeared everywhere, nestled in groups or on their own. Chocolate eggs, plastic eggs, paper cutout eggs, and brilliant neon colors. Anyone who knows me personally will appreciate the irony of that picture. At this point in my life, I knew I wanted a family, but I hadn't realized I might need to start considering any and every possible opportunity, including doing it on my own. No, at this time, the irony of the seasonal display only made me laugh and shake my head at the oddness of modern life. We continued on through the aisles of frozen foods, dairy, canned goods, stationery, housewares, women's clothing, bedding, toys, appliances, photo printing, telephones, banking, vitamins. Elevator music played in the background, which my mind unconsciously morphed into songs from Jesus Christ. Stop. Try not to get worried, try not to turn on to problems that upset you. Oh, don't you know everything's alright, yes, everything's fine, and you want to sleep well tonight. Housewares. What's the buzz? Tell me what's happening. What's the buzz? Tell me what's happening. Why do you need to know? Don't you worry about the future. Stationery. Don't let me stop your great self-destruction. Die if you want to, you misguided martyr. Snack food. I don't know how to love him. Post office. We entered the produce section, and here the Easter decorations seemed to increase, resonating with the fruit and veggies glistening under their waxed skins. Suddenly, from ahead, an elderly woman approached us. She was tiny, and her head was crowned with a puff of soft silver hair. In her hand, she held a very large honeydew melon. Seeing us, she stopped suddenly, a giant smile spreading across her wrinkled face, and exclaimed, "Ah, young love! Don't give it up. I didn't. It's been 58 years with the same man." And with the cock of her head, and just as suddenly as she stopped, she peeled off. Well, Mr. Victoria and I turned to each other and burst into gales of laughter. We laughed till our bellies ached, till we collapsed on the floor, till we couldn't laugh anymore, till it was time to go to the clinic. And we got the pill and drove back to the house, and I took the pill, and it sent me directly from ovulation to PMS without passing it over, collecting $200. I began to feel weepy and fragile and not absolutely sure I'd done the right thing. With the frankenfood from the superstore, we cooked up an Easter brunch full of more spring fertility symbols. The afternoon passed pleasantly enough, and Mr. Victoria was especially attentive and tender to me and the sudden hormonal changes I was experiencing. The sun was beginning to dip behind the cedars in the backyard when we said our goodbyes. I boarded the bus bound for the city, and as it pulled away, my mind swirled with the events of the weekend, all the songs from the show vying for airtime at once. The bus rounded a corner, entering the on-ramp to the highway, and there, glistening in the long beams of magic hour sunlight, was the stupid store. Jesus Christ, superstar.